Hello YouTube, welcome to Zara's Shed. 2.5 years ago, I got ourselves a reverse osmosis water filtering system. And me being me, I always like to know and understand how things work. And I generally understand how the system works. One thing that puzzled me though is this remineralization filter. It claims to add some minerals back into the water to make it more nutritional for our bodies, and it states that its service life is just 6 months. So I was wondering, like, what happens after 6 months? Do these minerals inside, they just dissolve into the water and this cartridge becomes empty? So I decided to run some experiment and see how it operates. But before I go in, I want to quickly show you what the heck I'm talking about here. So this is a simplified design schematics of reverse osmosis system. Mine is from the APEC brand, but they all work the same more or less. So what you have is a tap water which enters the pre-filter stage. Here we have a sediment filter, which is just a pleated filter, just like a coarse mesh of fibers that remove mainly sediments and rust and things like that from the water. Then it goes into 2 carbon filters. Their main role is to remove chlorine, because chlorine destroys the RO membrane. So after going through the carbon filters, it goes to the membrane. This is where the magic happens. Basically separates water into a brine that flows back into a sewage, and the rest of the clean water goes into the tank. Now inside the tank there is sort of an air balloon, and originally the tap water pressure is higher than the pressure in the tank, and over the time, as more and more water gets pushed into the tank, the pressures equalize, and inside this assembly there is a special check valve that cutoff valve. What it does, the moment it detects that the flow into the tank is not going anymore, it shuts off the intake valve and the whole filtering process stops. It's quite ingenious because it operates on pure physics without any electricity or other electronics, so that's completely off-grid system. Now at this point, when the tank is full, nothing is happening until you open your spigot to pour yourself a bit of drinking water. At this stage, the pressure in this part drops and the water starts coming out of the tank, going first through the post-carbon filter, which is just another carbon filter claiming to add a bit of taste and remove odors. Not that I noticed any when I tried to drink water straight from my tank. But anyhow, it goes through this filter, and then it goes through remineralization filter, which adds some minerals again back into the water, as they claim, to make it more nutritional. And then it flows out into your, saucepan, pan, or a cup. So I try to understand how this thing works. Since it adds minerals dissolve into the water should add free ions. Free ions increase water's conductivity, which means the way it conducts electricity. And the way to measure it is what's called through a total dissolved solids, or TDS. There are small pan-sized devices that you can buy for $10 to $20 that will measure water conductivity, calculate the TDS value, and basically show you the amount of free ions into the water. It's one indication of how pure your water is, because purely distilled H2O water has TDS value of 0. It's actually not conductive. So I measured the TDS value at different stages, and my tap water is 30 TDS, which is already quite low, and then I've measured after it exits membrane, it's down to 3 TDS. This is by the book, because RO membrane should drop the value of TDS by the factor of 10, so make it 10 times less. This is exactly what happens. I was surprised it's actually by the mass, and I just measured it today after 2.5 years, and it's still 30 to 3. That's amazing. Now, when the water passes through this filter, the value goes up to 14, which means this filter does add something. Now I tried to do some blind tasting of water at this stage and at this stage. Maybe my taste palettes are not that sharp anymore, but I wouldn't say I could definitely tell the difference. But anyhow, my expectation was, since this thing adds something into the water, then over time, all the minerals in this cartridge would dissolve, and this value should start dropping until it drops back to 3. And this stage, if I monitor it, I know then, but no, the moment it drops to 3, this filter is empty, and it's definitely time to replace it. And probably I should replace it whenever this value starts dropping. So again, the service life on this is claimed to be 6 months. But after 2.5 years, I measured it just today, it's still 14 TDS, the way it was 2.5 years ago when I originally installed this system. So that's a puzzling question. So I decided not to wait any longer till it starts dropping, and went ahead and replaced the filter. And then I cracked the old filter open, and this is what I found inside of it. So inside we have these rocks, this sort of crystals, looks like a coarse salt. It doesn't have any taste, doesn't have any odor. The cartridge itself, it looks very thorough. Just look at these walls, they're 5 mm thick, you know, very thorough job by Epic. I mean, I kind of expected them to be a bit thinner, but then if you look at the specs, it's stated to withhold 125 psi of pressure, which is quite a bit of pressure. So yeah, good construction. And this cartridge was full of this material. It didn't look, you know, half empty or quarter empty. It was quite full. So I don't know, it looks like this cartridge works forever. I think if I left it in the system, it would have just kept going and going and going. Maybe there are some other, you know, trace materials or minerals or something that's in this cartridge that gets depleted, and that's not detected through TDS, at least some sort of, you know, organic matter. I didn't test for alkalinity, for example. But in general, if you judge by TDS, it just keeps going. Maybe one day I'll do a thorough water analysis and try to understand what exactly this filter is adding, and we'll monitor if it's depleting in any way or not. Till the next time.